Is now 5 o'clock. I call this meeting of the Granbury Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections. 551.072, discussion of purchase, exchange, lease, and value of real property. And 551.074, discussion of officers, employees, and personnel matters. That is it. The time is now 5:01. By Dr. McDonald.
Will you pray with me? Heavenly Father, we thank you for all that you do for us. You are the Lord of Lords and King of Kings. We thank you for this beautiful time at Christmas. We thank you for our schools, our teachers, all of the volunteers, the staff, our principals, just all of the people who make it possible for these children to get a great education. Father, we thank you for what we do here in this district, and we ask that you look over every single decision that we make tonight, that it is in the best interest of every child in our district. We thank you for this opportunity to serve, and it is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. McDonald. And at this time, we will have our pledges, and I understand Oakwoods is here today.
All right. Well, thank you for letting us do the pledges tonight. We do have our student council representatives with us this evening. We have Cash Taylor. He is our president. We have Lakin McKenzie, who is our vice president. We have Lennon, who is our treasurer. And then Lennon Freeman, our treasurer. And then we have Aubrey Akins, who is our secretary. All right, you ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And I apologize, and we do have Ms. Miller, our student council teacher representative, with us tonight, too.
And while these young people get their picture taken, do we have any parents out there? If you could stand up and we can recognize you as well. Thank you so much for what you do for the kiddos. Thank you. All right, and at this time we have our Achievement Spotlight, and we have Miss Ross Jinsey with your students, with Christina Sosby. Sosby, am I pronouncing that right? Thank you.
Buenas noches, Dr. Glenn, la Presidente de la Junta Escolar Townsend, y todos los miembros de la Junta Escolar de GISD. Good evening, Dr. Glenn, School Board President Townsend, and all GISD School Board trustees. This was our inaugural year to conduct the Spanish Spelling Bee at GISD. This year, we had 40 amazing and hardworking students from Bronner Elementary that competed and were coached by Ms. Veronica Barragan and Ms. Nubia Velasquez. We look forward to watching this competition grow over the coming years. The 21-22 GISD Spanish Spelling Bee champions for grades 3 through 5 will now move on to compete at the regional level, which will be held on Friday, February 4th, 2022, at Region 11 Education Service Center. Here to present the Spanish Spelling Bee champions is Bronner Elementary Principal, Jinsey Ross.
All right, well, we were so excited to have the first annual Spanish Spelling Bee at Bronner. One thing that surprised me, and I don't know why, it's just that shift in your brain while students are speaking Spanish, is that they also spelled in Spanish. So like if the word that they had to spell was car, which in Spanish is carro, they'd say, how would you spell it? C-A-R-O, instead of C-A-R-O. So when I heard them spelling in Spanish in the cafeteria, I was like, of course they would do that. So it was just amazing just to see how many kids participated, and just a different way to recognize and honor our kids and have them participate and be recognized. So we're very proud of them. And I'm going to let Ms. Velasquez, who is in the LEAP Academy, and she's also our third grade team lead and one of our dual language teachers, introduce the kiddos.
Okay, so for third grade, we have and she was also our overall winner, was Eliana Aguado. And then we have our fourth grade winner, Jose Sanchez, and then we had Coraima Aguado, who's not able to be here fifth grade. But the really thing I wanted to point out for Jose and Coraima was that they've been an early exit, so they haven't been learning to spell in Spanish. So I thought that was pretty big for them to be able to still pull that learning from what they had learned when they were younger. Okay, and so I'm going to say it in Spanish for their parents to understand. So tenemos a Eliana Aguado de tercer grado, es la ganadora de todo el concurso. Y luego José Sánchez fue el que representó el de 4 grado, y ellos van a ir a competir en los regionales también. And something else I want to point out is the accents is what was very important. So they don't only have to spell the word, but they also have to spell the accent. So they have 400 words, and we counted them, over 300 have accent marks on them also. So that's a very big accomplishment.
And so we're going to give Eliana a medal as the campus winner of our spelling bees. So Eliana and her mother is also one of our first grade teachers at Bronner in the dual language program. So Eliana, if you'll come over here, and here is your medal. Congratulations. We'll get your picture in just a minute. And then Jose is our fourth grade champion. Congratulations. All right, so you're going to come around and shake hands with everybody, and then we'll get a picture at the end, okay? All right, here you go. You can do it.
And so we can recognize the proud parents. Would they please stand up? I was so surprised to hear about this program and why we hadn't done it before, but from what I understand, it only started in 2019. And I'm so proud that we are getting started as quickly as possible. So, good job.
Okay, now we're
Moving on to the public comments. Do we have any? All right, fine. We shall move on then. Oh, sorry, I forgot Stacy. You went, oh. Granbury ISD Education Foundation. Stacy Mitchell is going to talk to us about the 2021 grants.
Yes, good evening, and this is my yearly report where I tell you how our year's gone. We had our 50 Fellows fundraiser after not being able to have it last year, and we raised $131,628.78 from the event. And then we were able to award 38 grants and 4 awards, totaling in $313,329. So several of the grants, that brings our 10-year grant total up to right under $730,000 since we started. But I just wanted to highlight a couple grants that we awarded this year. After seeing the Spanish spelling bee, we brought several, to Bronner, we brought in Spanish books to help bring the parents and the kids together in Spanish so that they can read and take home and be able to read to their parents. And then we were also able to fund a neat project between kindergarten and 5th grade where they'll be building dog houses and working together to build them and design them, and then they're going to go donate them to Second Chance Farms. And Granbury Middle School, we're bringing up their outdoor learning center. We're going to give them a ropes course, and so that was about $16,000 just in that. So we are just still growing and moving, and it's an exciting time for us. So we were glad to be able to have our event again. So thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
And one other thing, if you don't mind leaving them. And so also, I know the Education Foundation is gonna help facilitate the Ledbetter scholarships.
Yes, sir. We're working with Ms. Ledbetter in order to be, since we are the nonprofit that goes along with Granbury ISD, the awards will go into our account, and then we'll help manage it with the board as well. So we're very excited about that and all the scholarships it's going to be providing for teachers and students. So.
And again, Ms. Ledbetter is with us tonight, and we're grateful for her and her generosity to the district, but also to you and your board for helping make this become a reality for us.
Yes. Well, thank you.
And just on a side note, seeing all this come together makes me think of, this is what Ron Mayfield was thinking when he was superintendent and he came and wanted to start the Education Foundation. He knew that someday there would be someone like Miss Ledbetter come up, and there would be someone like Miss Mitchell who's done a beautiful job taking care of grants, and it has blessed the school district so much, and I just want to thank everyone who has had a part in that.
We would be remiss were we not to recognize that you were the first leader of that group in the inaugural year. And so thank you, Barbara.
It is a pleasure. All right. And now for our next pleasure, we are going to consider the approval of the annual financial audit report for the year ending August 31st, 2021. Mr. Whitfield.
Thank you, Madam President. Before you have our audit that is for the year ending August 31st, 2021. And tonight, Rick Klein is here with the audit firm Snow Garrett and Williams to present that audit to you for your approval.
Thank you, Emmett. And as you said, I'm Rick Klein with Snow Garrett Williams. I'm glad to see y'all again, this time in person, not through Zoom. Just going to do a quick overview of the financial statements for the year ended August 31st, 2021. We're going to go ahead and start off on page 1. And if y'all just follow along with me, and please feel free to stop me at any point for any questions you may have. So on page 1, we have the certificate of the board, and this is what will be checked approved or disapproved based on y'all's vote tonight. It'll be signed by the secretary and the board president. Once we get this back, we'll get this back to Emma and to the district.
I'm sorry. Will you pull that microphone a little closer to you, because if I'm having trouble here,
Testing.
somebody on that
Testing.
back row is going to go
Is that
right
better?
to sleep, and I want them to hear this.
I was scared it's going to be too close, so.
Thank you.
Test. 1, 2. Thank you. Okay. So page 1, this is the certificate of the board. This will be checked approved or disapproved based on y'all's vote tonight. We'll take this back with us once we get the copy, send it back to Emmett, and this will be submitted with the rest of the information to TEA for y'all's annual submission, which is due January 28th. We'll go ahead and move on to page 2. Page 2 is our independent auditor's report, and I'm just going to do a quick paraphrasing of this report for y'all. The report on the audit of the annual financial statements, and we have audited the financial statements of Granbury ISD for the year ended August 31st, 2021, and the related notes to the financial statements. Jumping down to the management's responsibilities section of the report, management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Down to the auditor's responsibilities section. Our responsibility is to express an opinion on the financial statements based on our audit. We conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and with government auditing standards. Those standards require that we perform our audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. We'll flip over to the next page. And up at the top is our opinion we've issued on the financial statements, and in our opinion, the financial statements referred to present fairly in all material respects the financial position, governmental activities, business type activities in each major fund of Granbury Independent School District as of August 31st, 2021. And this is what is also known as a clean or unmodified opinion. This is the highest level of assurance we can give to auditors. Seal scored 100 on that, so everything's looking good. Now we're going to make a little bit of a jump, go to page 16. It'll be page 16, 17, kind of a two-sided schedule there. So here we've got the balance sheet for the district ending August 31st, 2021. I'm going to do a quick overview of the layout of the schedule. So we're going to be focusing on both pages. On the left-hand side, we've got the categories of your balance sheet. You've got assets, followed by liabilities. Below that, you've got deferred inflows for property taxes, with the bottom section being the fund balance. Now going across the columns, first column is the general fund, which of course reports all the general operations of the district. The second column, we have the ESSER 2 fund. To the right of it, the debt service fund. And then we have all of the other funds aggregated in the other governmental funds column. And then to the very far right, we have all of the total governmental column, which we'll focus on that for just a second. So for the total assets for the district for the year were $44.1 million. Total liabilities, $9.4 million. The deferred inflows for property taxes were at $1.9 million. And down at the bottom, total fund balance was $32.8 million. We're going to go over to the general fund column on the left-hand side. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping over, but just give you, hopefully it's easy to keep up. And so total fund balance for the general fund for the year ended up at $29.3 million, which consisted of $5 million that's committed for construction, $1.2 committed for capital equipment, and then $300,000 that's set aside for other purposes, leaving an unassigned balance of $22.8 million for the general fund. And we'll go ahead and jump over to pages 19 and 20. Here we've got the income statement for the year. This is the same layout. We've got the same columns as we did in the other report. On the left-hand side, it is a little bit different. We have revenues, followed by expenditures, with the ending fund balance down at the bottom. Again, we're going to look at the total first on the very far hand right side. Total revenues for the district were $96.3 million, with total expenditures of $92 million. That resulted in a change of $4.2 million for the year, and again, an ending fund balance of $32.8 million. Focusing back on the general fund in the first column, total revenues were $75.2 million, with total expenditures being $71.6 million, with a net change of $3.6 million. And now we will go over to page 54.
If you don't mind, just for our trustees who may not know, explain why you're taking the bigger jump.
Yeah, so we are taking a large gap in the pages. What's within that section is the notes to the financial statements, and there is a lot of detailed description of all of our balance sheet accounts, as long as the methods that the districts use for different ways to account for things. So it's more of an in-depth description of the financial statements in a lot more detail. So if there's anything in there that you would like to go over, we can do that. But there's also it's also a good weekend read if y'all need anything fun to do this weekend. So on page 54, we've got the budgetary fund comparison schedule. This is the same information we were looking at with the income statement, but we're also throwing in the budget information. So on the left, we got revenues and expenditures, and we've got 4 columns. The first 2 columns are your budget columns. So the first one is your original budget that was adopted by the board. And then we've got the final budget that includes the amendments that were adopted throughout the year. Third column, we've got the actual numbers. And the final column is a variance comparing the actual to the final amounts. So looking at total revenues, there were $1.8 million more than budgeted, which is always a good sign. And then down at the very bottom, you'll see there was $2.6 million in expenses that were less than the budgeted amount. So budgeting looked really great this year. Y'all did a really good job on that. And even within the individual functions, there were no negative variances of any kind. So y'all did great doing that this year on that. Okay, we'll go to page 61. Just to point out real quick, this is the delinquent tax schedule for the year ended August 31st, 2021. And we just kind of like to briefly go over the tax rates and changes in the assessed value. So on this left-hand side, in the second column, we've got the rates for the maintenance and operations rate for the district, which decreased by 0.0036 for the year. And the column to the right of it, the debt service tax rate for the year decreased by 1 cent, which doesn't sound like a lot, but whenever you multiply that times a $6.6 billion valuation, it makes a big difference. So you'll see that the valuation increased by $277 million compared to the prior year. And flip over to the next page, to page 63. These are getting a little more in depth into the some of the individual funds. So this is the budgetary comparison schedule for the child nutrition fund of the district. We're just going to focus on the actual column, which is in the middle of the 3 columns. So total revenues of the year for the child nutrition were $3.6 million. Total expenses were $3.2 million, for a change of an increase of $383,000, excuse me, with an ending fund balance of $830,000. The increase there is mainly due to having a full year of students, not having the loss due to shutdowns from COVID, and then there's also some other additional grants and that type of thing for the year. On the next page, we've got the same schedule, but for the debt service fund. Again, we'll focus on the actual column. Total revenues for the debt service fund are $9.8 million. Total expenditures were $9.5. Increase of $263,000 for an ending fund balance at the very bottom of that for $2.2 million. There was no significant transactions that occurred other than the regularly required debt service payments and the tax revenues that came in there. Everything was pretty on schedule with that fund. And we'll go ahead and go to page 66. All right, so page 66 is what's known as the optimum fund balance calculation schedule. This isn't a required schedule by TEA, but we do like to leave this in here because we think it's a good benchmark for the district to kind of look at and see where they're at with their funds. So what it does is it takes the total general fund balance at line 1, you'll see $29.3 million, and it compares that to the committed fund balance of $6.5 million on line 4. We calculate 3 months of estimated expenditures, which would be calculated on line 6 and 7, and those come up to about $17.9 million. So the total of that $17.9 million and the 6.5 add up to the line 12 of $24 million. Comparing the $24 million to the first line of the 29 calculates at an excess of $4.9 million, so that's looking really good for the district. With these times, there's a lot of uncertainty with funding and that type of stuff, so we've been pleased to see more of an excess in there rather than closer to zero, because there's been so many changes with funding for state funding and federal funding. So. And then we'll go on to page 78. Page 78 includes some of the school first indicators that we are required to answer for the submission of those responses. I'm not going to go through all these, but I will read through a few of them. SF1, was there an unmodified opinion in the annual financial report on the financial statements as a whole? Yes, there was. Were there any disclosures in the annual financial report or any other sources of information concerning non-payment of any terms of any debt agreements? The answer to that is no. That's the right way you want that going. Down at SF5, did the annual financial report disclose any instances of material weakness in internal controls over financial reporting and compliance for local, state, or federal funds? No, there were no findings. Was there any disclosure in the financial report of material noncompliance for grants, contracts, and laws? And no, there were no disclosures for that. Including those, all the answers on this page are going in the direction that y'all favorable to the district. So as far as the school first indicators go for that we submit, y'all scored 100 on those. So that's all I've got for y'all tonight. Do y'all have any questions on anything?
So looking over where Granbury ISD stands, would you say when compared against our peers in other districts, how would you say we stand financially? Performance-wise,
Granbury's also, always stood at or above all of the comparable districts in our area. I think y'all have been on the right track and it's looking very well, so. If y'all don't have anything else, thank y'all for y'all's continued business, and we'll wrap it up with that and hope y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions at all?
I'd also like to thank Rick for meeting with us last week.
Yes.
A couple of us met with him, and he spent a great deal of time.
We're always glad to help wherever we can.
And Rick, do you want to stay for our entire meeting, or do you want these?
I can take it now, but I'm happy to stay too. Or you can
I can't let you leave the room until the board votes, but
Yeah.
but we'll let you take these with you real quick.
Madam President, I'd like to move that we approve the annual financial audit report for year ending August 31st, 2021.
I second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Jackson, seconded by Dr. Harrington. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? We're good. Here we go. Good, because I couldn't put it up.
They're heavy.
And I would also like to thank Mr. Whitefield that we could get these done, and we're always looking good, and that has a lot to do with our finance department. So thank you so much. You're making us look good. Okay, next we have the consent agenda items. Does anyone have any in particular they would like to pull out?
Just to comment, Madam President. This month, we had donations of $4,925.60 from our general public. $180 of that went to our auto tech department. In case any of you have something that you'd like them to work on, I understand they will. If you trust them to work on their car, they'll give you a donation, and that was $180. The Optimum Club donated $360, and not because so many of them sit on their board, but they are very generous to the schools and the students in GISD, and they donated that toward the athletic department. There were $320 from folks for the customer care program, and there was $3,500 donated in support of the MJROTC. The Janice Baird donated $3,000, and George Her donated $500. Bacchus donated $215.60, their PTO, to their teacher workroom. And I had to ask what LEFSA, and that's a law enforcement activity group in our high school, And we had junior spas donated 100, and the DCBE Acton Volunteer Fire Department donated 250. Again, a total of almost $5,000. We couldn't do it without you folks out there. If any of you are here or you know any of them, tell them thank you.
Thank you very much. Were there any other items or comments that anyone wanted to make on the consent agenda items? All right.
Madam President, I'll move that we accept the consent agenda items as presented.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Thank you, Mr. Moore. All those in favor of accepting, raise your hand. Any opposed? It passes unanimous. All right. Moving on to the consider adoption of the Tasby Local Update 118. Dr. Glenn.
Thank you, Madam President. Trustees, last month you had Policy Update 118 in your packet for a first review. This month we come before you asking that you approve it as presented. The update is large and complex, coming off a very long legislative session with multiple special sessions. That is not something that's uncommon. There are a couple of items on the legal side that we're going to seek clarification on, but overall, you see really 12 big lifts ranging from accountability, elections, purchasing, safety and security, transportation, facilities, employment practices, personnel, special programs, testing, attendance, and student welfare. So this update does cover a large portion of our policy manual. I'm just going to hit just a few highlights that are changes I felt were interesting. The first was, if you notice right there on page 2, that there was language added on the prohibition of a student trustee participating in a closed session board meeting, which probably would have been nice to have about 3 years ago when that actually applied to us. But right now, that doesn't seem like a hot topic for GISD. Also on our concealed carry, something that's could possibly be a change for us down the road as it relates to our marshal program, is that marshals are now permitted under Senate Bill 741 to carry on their persons, they're not limited to the lockbox. Also, you're going to see updates related to human trafficking warning signs that we're going to have to place on campuses. Cybersecurity continues to be an incredibly hot topic, not only in Granbury ISD, but across the state. And I'm sure that our technology director will provide you with some really interesting news that he shared with us today during our leadership meeting about the number of attacks that we incur on a daily basis here in the district. In addition to that, SBEC is going to start to limit district's authority on contract abandonment, something that we see year in and year out. When the deadline passes at 45 days before the first day of instruction, we always have teachers that either we want to hire because they're with another district, or maybe they want to leave us and go to another district, but that 45-day clause keeps them in GISD. Well, now we're beginning to see the state pull back on that to where teachers are going to have more discretion to leave their contract earlier. Beyond that, you're going to see a lot of acronym changes. Limited English Proficient has now been changed to Emergent Bilingual, which I think our staff has done a great job of making us aware of that in meetings. And then, let's see, as a final point, I just thought this was interesting. It was in GKD Legal, and it was part of House Bill 525. It was a protection against religious organizations' closure by a governmental entity during a disaster. And you wonder why that would apply to us in a school district. Well, at one time here, I believe Stonewater Church actually started their services at Bronner. And so as the government pulls back on restricting or mandating closures like we saw with COVID in March of 2020, they're also going to restrict your ability as a governing body to make those decisions to close church services if you allow them to come into our facilities, which we have done in the past. So you can see a lot of sweeping changes and a lot of changes that are directly related to maybe government overreach because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about Update 118.
Any questions?
Madam President, I move that we adopt the Tasby Local Policy Update 118 as presented.
Thank you, Dr. McDonald. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? It passes unanimous. And we shall now move on to Mr. Wilson with our technology plan.
How's everybody doing today?
Just great.
Awesome. So you should have gotten a copy of the board book, or a copy of our technology plan, the board book. It's 30 pages long. I'd like to go for it word for word, if you don't mind. Just kidding. Just kidding. So essentially, a technology plan uses historical data, uses our inventory, our usage statistics, everything from the last year, this year, to plan for next year. So we have a lot of information that we'd like to share for you, but I'd like to summarize as best I can to get you out of here as quick as I can. So 89% of all teachers believe technology use in the classroom enhances student learning. They also believe that a student maximizes, They also believe that it maximizes the potential of the student, it fosters creativity, enhances collaboration, allows them to communicate effectively, and allows them to think critically. We use things like inventory, our campus improvement plans. We use surveys. We use GSG 2025 data. We use Bright Bytes data to collect all this information so we can develop the nice plan that we have laid out for you. Again, I will not go for it word for word because it's very lengthy and very wordy. Also in front of you, if you're looking at your slide, is just a PM snapshot as well as a side-by-side to our local inventory. We have 7,732 students enrolled on our snapshot date, which is October 25th. At the same time, we had 7,690 Chromebooks, 2,680 iPads, 1,108 Chromebooks. Now, the average age span of most of those devices is around 5 years. So we do have to get onto a nice recycle schedule that we've already kind of started. But in order for us to get to a one-to-one district, we need to have at least 2% more than what we have on students. That's in case we have breaks or failures or fixed or service calls or something like that. So we can replace the device and the student's not down without anything.
So would the goal be to get to one-to-one, where the kids take the devices home?
I don't know if we necessarily want the kids to take the device home. I would love to have a one-to-one environment where a kid can come into a classroom and retrieve a device and work on a device. Right now, if you were to ask that of all the teachers, we would be about 400 Chromebooks short. It's just the pure simple fact of it. We don't have enough devices for the amount of students that we have.
So when you talk devices, you're just talking about Chromebooks? Because
ma'am.
when I look back at your chart that you just had up there, you also had the iPads and you had a Chromebox. So it was.
Yes. So when you look at the inventory of devices, those are not only student devices. Those are the entire devices for all the staff. So a lot of the iPads are not used from the upper levels, basically kindergarten and above. Those are restricted technically because of the touch sensitivity for kids. It's a lot easier for them to use that information. So we kind of restrict that to like Emma, where it's used predominantly the most. Also, we like to educate our staff and our students about online safety. We want to make them responsible, safe, respectful, and legal decisions. We want to educate them on what they say now can and will hold on to them for eternity. And as Dr. Glenn alluded to, cybersecurity, it's one of my biggest challenges, I guess. We have an annual training as required by Tasby, TEA. It requires us to do some kind of cybersecurity training. We want to teach best practice. We want to allow us to give the information for everyone else to be able to detect, assess, report, and address those findings so they know and can do that information for themselves. We also want to increase the communication, and that's from me to the staff and to the students, to say, look, these are the things that we know comes at this time of day. These are the things to be looking out for, so we can actually help decrease our footprint there. And then I gave this information to Dr. Glenn and the board this morning, or our cabinet meeting. Just in the month of December alone, we've had more than 41,000 attempts at network intrusion. And just in December. We've also had more than 35 attempted administrator access gains, which means someone tried to get into one of our servers to get administrative access, to get full control of our systems. And all of those have been thwarted and taken down by your network team and technology team. So we're doing very good there, but it's a daily effort. And then this last slide, I want to basically read word for word. It's very short, but it's got a lot of good information. As technology evolves and our district grows, we must continually monitor and adjust our resources for all grade levels on a regular basis. Technology must support teachers as they move and simply believing the power of technology to leveraging it in a classroom. The technology plan is a living document, and evaluation semi-annually will ensure goals and objectives remain aligned. If you had a chance to read over the 30-page document and you have any questions, then please shoot away.
Brent, share a little bit with the board about your plans for the ESSER funds that we'll be receiving as it relates to technology.
So for the ESSER funds, we're trying to get into a nice replacement schedule. If I were to stand today and replace every device in our district that is out of date, I would spend about $3.25 million. The cost of a device that's over 5 years old for a laptop, we have about 80% of our environments like that. The cost of our Chromebooks is about $300 a piece. We have 7,000 of them. That's a pretty penny. It's a little over $2 million. So we're going to use that money for the next 3 years to develop a rolling cycle to where we can manage that in a smaller sum over a 4-year cycle. So we'll use some of our local funds this year, along with ESSER funds, to purchase a third of the devices or a fourth of the devices, so we can start rolling those out now. And in 4 years' time, by the time we've depleted all the ESSER funds, we have in place a nice schedule with our local funds to accommodate the same process.
So in, I guess, 2013, $6 million of that bond was allocated toward technology, which did really wonders for the district, coming off several tough financial years in 2010, 2011, 2012 to upgrade our technology across the district. But now we're in a situation where a lot of that technology is getting old. So I appreciate Mr. Wilson being proactive, making sure that we have an operation plan in place to replace these without having to go back out to taxpayers and ask for a bond.
Agreed.
So thank you for that, and also thank you for the work you do. I know cybersecurity is a daily struggle, but also keeping our devices up and keeping a customer service friendly technology department is important, and I know that's hard as well when dealing with with all the issues that not only we have. I know that everybody deals with that, but you do a great job, and we appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. I appreciate it. All right. Do I have any other questions? And if not, I need a motion.
Madam President, I'm used to saying Mr. President. I move that we approve the technology plan as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. We have a first and a second, and with that, we shall vote. Those all in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. All right, and our last consideration will be the 2022-2023. Hard to believe. School calendar. Mr. Dawson.
Madam President, thank you, Board of Trustees. I'm excited to present to you our calendar. Just a little history, a little background. In November, our admin team of principals and directors had the chance to review it and start gathering input from staff. December 2nd, our district advisory committee was presented with 3 different options of calendars, and then immediately provided a survey to the district of the 3 different options. It was overwhelmingly, I guess, by teachers that calendar A, which is a replica of this school year's calendar, go again, just some numbers for you to know about. There were 400, out of 1,000 employees, there were 466 surveys completed. Out of those 466, which I was very interested to get as much teacher input as possible, because they're in the daily grind and with students, direct instruction. So teachers and paraprofessionals, there was 369, so 79% of the surveys completed were by classroom teachers and paraprofessionals. And so they like the 3-week Christmas time, and so 65% voted for calendar A, which was what you see in front of you. Calendar B was 25%, and calendar C was 10%. So you can see there was a pretty significant response for calendar A in the 3-week Christmas time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thought you were going to say something.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, it's interesting that originally, as you talk about changes related to COVID, that 3rd week at Christmas was put in last year as part of our response to having a flex schedule. TEA pushed a lot of districts to have some sort of intercessional calendar. We didn't want to do that. We said we'll just bank a few days at Christmas. If we don't use them, we'll have a longer bank. Or we'll have a longer break. And what was pretty amazing is how much teachers really liked that. And last year on the calendar, they wanted to see it this year. And anyway, it's something that has a lot of staff support and seems to be gaining momentum amongst parents as well. So,
with this, we'll have 3 additional days of minutes built in, and you can see in April that there is a couple bad weather days as well built in, just in case.
We always like to keep those extra minutes just in case we have a snow day. It doesn't affect what would be essentially Easter break, correct, Mr. Dawson?
Right.
Wouldn't the 7th be Good Friday?
7th is Good Friday.
We want to protect that day as much as possible.
I was wondering what April 7th and 10th were. I did not look those up.
That's that Easter weekend.
Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, that works out nice. All right, any other comments? Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 GISD school calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Dr. Harrington. Okay, all those in favor of the calendar for 2022-2023? All right, any opposed? It passes.
I'd like to give a special thanks to Jeff Metter for organizing the survey and putting together the calendar. So thanks, Jeff, for doing that.
All right, moving on to reports. Dr. Glenn.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, trustees. Again, I'll start off just reflecting on our COVID-19 numbers. Last year at this time, we saw a significant surge in cases across the district. That has not been the case in this interim time between Thanksgiving and Christmas. In fact, our numbers remain incredibly low. One area of concern that we continue to watch from the business office and also from a campus perspective is our attendance rate. Even though COVID numbers are low, we haven't seen attendance numbers climb back to the 96, 97% levels that we saw pre-COVID. We're still kind of hovering in the low 90s, which is of concern. And so strategically, we're going to try and put in place some programs. One item specifically that we've talked about at the secondary level, so grades 6 through 12, is trying to put midterms and finals in place and tie them to student attendance. We've seen that successfully implemented here in the past, but also in other districts to encourage kids to show up, because as you know, our funding is tied directly to student attendance. In addition to that, we continue to partner with our local civic organizations. Rotary found themselves in a pinch, and they are currently using our facilities here at the administration building the month of December and January for their meetings, but the district will be traveling in January out to the Kiwanis Club for Education Month, where we'll be speaking on our long-range planning committee's recommendation, which will come before you for a vote in January. In addition to that, as we talk long-range planning, I'll also be asking for a recommendation from each of you on an individual to participate in a bond steering committee, somebody that'll work directly, or a team that'll work directly with our leadership team as we get out and have conversations moving toward a possible bond election in May 2022. Finally, I'll end the night with a shout out to Margaret Rodriguez, who tomorrow night will graduate 18 graduates. And as you know, that is truly a mission field, and what she does is amazing. And so if you have the opportunity to come out to Acton Baptist Church, we're grateful for the partnership we have with them. And I believe that celebration starts at 7 o'clock, correct? So invite everybody to come out and celebrate with those students. Also let everybody know the board did have hold a workshop to interview architects for a possible upcoming bond election in May of 2022, and we'll be traveling in January to tour some facilities, so they're really going to take their time as they move through the decision-making process as it relates to bringing an architect on board for that project. And so with that, two shout-outs. The first to Emmett Whitefield. Great job. I know we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Dobie Williams, who left us over the summer, but certainly we know you were behind the scenes working incredibly hard with your team and everybody in the business office through a lot of change to make sure we had a clean audit. And so thank you for that, and putting back $3.6 million in an era where a lot of districts are struggling in the red to meet their budgets, while at the same time being able to be generous to our staff. Truly great leadership and great work on your part, and thank you for being financially conservative in all your decisions. And I know sometimes that can frustrate other team members in the room, but we love you, and we're grateful for you. And to our principals in the room, Merry Christmas. It's been a long semester. You and your staff have been nothing short of phenomenal, so thank you for all you do for the students and community of Granbury ISD. We hope you have a restful and relaxing Christmas break in 4 more days. Madam President, that's all we have tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. Okay, we're going to get it over to Emmett Whitefield to go through the financial statements.
Thank you, Madam President. Board, in front of you, you have the financial statements for the month ended November 30th, 2021. You can see on your spreadsheet there that revenue collected to date equals 6.92% of the budgeted amount, compared to 5.44% in 2021 and 13.46% in 1920. The expenditures to date represent 25.34% of the budgeted, compared to the 25.11% in 2021 and 25.22% in the 1920 year. Again, notable in the revenues there, you can see that the investment income is lacking still at this point. When we get over to the investment report, you will be able to see that the actual interest in Ameritrade is actually catching up with the depreciation of that particular investment. And in this month, we will start depositing tax revenues, and our interest will go up, and we will catch up in the next month or two, and then it will be until our February payment and then our August payment that we actually make up the difference in that negative amount. So on the financials, we are sitting pretty good. You can see there's a little bit of a difference in the percentages from 1920 to this year, and that has to do with some of our other local revenues, which would have been probably athletic events that were a little bit higher at that point. And then, of course, on our state funding fluctuates just about every other year, and that would be the difference in that as well. And then we have just a few more federal revenues in there right now, and that's due to our ESSER funding that we are collecting indirect costs on. Are there any questions on those financials?
Good. Thank you.
Okay,
Just-
moving to the next report, the cash flow investment report. Again, I mentioned that you can see that our interest on Ameritrade is actually catching up with the depreciation and was actually more this month, where it was less last month. But again, it's starting to catch up, and then in the next few months, we'll be depositing tax revenue, local tax revenues that will catch us up on interest income over the next few months. And that is everything for the investment.
Thank you, Emmett. Appreciate it.
Ma'am.
Okay, we go on to the action items that we discussed during closed session. Can I just have a motion on that?
Yeah, I'll make a quick recommendation. So we have 4 items under HR for your consideration tonight. Again, we have our monthly staff recommendations, 2 catastrophic leave requests, and then approval of our comprehensive list of school marshals. And so it'll be the recommendation of the administration that you approve as presented.
Would you like to take them separately or all together?
I would prefer it to be all together, but that's
kind of what I was
really,
thinking.
that's really your decision.
Would you rather they be separate?
No.
Okay.
I move that we approve the staff recommendations as presented, the 2 catastrophic leave requests as presented, and the list of marshals, and the security team presentation.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gore. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? All right. That passes. I want to remind the board that we have a breakfast with the board at AES on Wednesday. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope they are too. And we will see you then. And with that, thank you very much. We are going to adjourn the meeting at 6:57. Thank you.
Thank you, board.